Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Inspirational Double Acts. I'm here with people who you definitely know already, but we're going to introduce you to them anyway. Rabbi Benji Morgan, Rabbi Cowan of the JLE, who do unbelievable work, and we're going to get to know them a little bit. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate the time. Let's start from the beginning. Firstly, you clearly know each other very well. You have an unbelievable rapport. First, where did that start? And how do you know each other?
Well, we can't reveal actually everything about how we got to know each other, though.
It basically involves, I don't know, we've been sworn to secrecy by certain secret agencies around the world. So we can't really, can we? No, we can't.
No, so let's move on to the next question. No, I'm just joking. No, so in reality, Dob, maybe you start because you're the one.
I was at Rabbi Business College. I just joined. I'd been there for 8 months. I went home to England for my sister's engagement party, came back a few weeks after the term had started, and there was this other guy there who had just joined, who, as far as he was concerned, looked at me as I was like the stranger. Why did I come into his kollel? So I was like, who is this guy who's who just, you know, he was obviously very confident. He was standing at the front of the kollel talking to Rav Berkovitz in a super confident style. I was like, who is this fellow? So we at first, you know, he's driving his English car. He had this English Nissan Bluebird that he drove. I was like, who is this guy? You know. And,
so Dob, it was funny because I said to you, "Who are you?" And you came to me and said, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Welcome." And he was like, "No, welcome to you." So we kind of had this like, well, who's welcoming who? And I would actually say, Dob, funnily enough, we didn't get on like immediately. We were like kind of a bit. It's a very.
I think I was probably a bit spooked by that first moment where you kind of looked at me like, who do you think you are walking to my yeshiva? And I was like, who are you? So, you know.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting because which year was that? 2008?
2008, yeah.
2008. So we're going back 12, 13.
No, 2009. Sorry, probably 2009. It was April 2009.
Right, April 2009. So we're coming up to our 12th anniversary, and it's been a journey, Dob, in terms of how we met each other. And like, obviously, we'll come a little bit more onto that later, Rabbi. But it's very interesting because, in reality, when we first met, we didn't necessarily think we'd be best friends, and we just kind of, in a way, and maybe this will follow up with further conversation. But in a way, we almost clashed a little bit when we first met. And along the way in our journey of working together, we've clashed a number of times and then ended up with something incredible. But it wasn't like love at first sight necessarily.
Okay, that itself, I guess, is a good relationship tip, to be honest.
Benji also went off. He left the kollel in 2011. Mm-hmm. He already headed off back to England. And just this is a quite important part of the story, actually, in that it was a year later. I was being sort of courted by a job in Philadelphia, and I was going backwards and forwards. America, is it happening? Wasn't happening? And you know, as far as we were concerned, we're heading off to America. And then this one day, it was March time. I got a call from Benji in England, and the conversation basically went like this: Dov, what's your passport number? Why? You're flying to England tomorrow. What? I mean, again, this was my introduction properly into the world of how Rabbi Benji Morgan works. Anyone who's worked with him will know. It was literally, Dov, what's your passport number? Okay, right. I turned to my wife and said, Rochelle, I guess I'm flying to London tomorrow. Like, I have no choice. But Benji already just made your flight's booked. Before I even finished my passport number, right, your flight's booked. You're leaving Ben Gurion tomorrow this time. Be there. You know, I'll give you a great seat. And before I knew it, I was flying to England. And before I knew it, I had a job at the JLE. So it was literally, very Benji moves fast, you know, when he gets, and that was the start, I think, of just me realizing just how Benji works and how we can work together.
Nice. Great. Okay, great. So let's fast forward. So you started working at JLE, and let's go with JLE then. And we have to mention Rabbis Unscripted, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the funny thing is, Rabbis Unscripted will come to that, but myself and Dov have run a TV show / radio show in our heads since we met. We've both been like these mad, you know, we used to have these kind of mic drop moments where we'd like be in the column and we say, just behind me, we see the Israeli aggression strike once again in the Gaza Strip. Benjamin Morgan, BBC News. in Jerusalem. And we would just constantly have a lot of fun mimicking radio and TV, thinking, even at the front of the bus stop for years.
I was going to say, Mama Cowan was in the front of the bus.
Yeah,
we had our trips. There was that.
We took trips all over the world together when we studied on professionals, and we'll come to that. So Rabbis Unscripted wasn't born through lockdown. It actually was born maybe 10 years prior. And that's maybe why people feel that we kind of know each other. We've been running this for so long, but it was in our heads. It's like, you know, we had Sharansky on the show last night, and, you know, I know you can't compare, but he said he played chess in his head for years. And then, you know, he was a chess champion. So it's a little bit like that, you know, in that way, if you can make that comparison. But just to start off with JD, and then interested in Dov's interjection, is that there's this like, when it came to, I was brought into JD to kind of head up a young professionals department that didn't really exist in the Golders Green branch. We had something in Hampstead, West Hampstead. We didn't have something in Golders Green. And I was asked as a single person just to set it up and try. And I did everything myself at that time. I didn't have any partners. I didn't even have a secretary yet. Remember, everything, literally did everything. And very quickly, within a number of years, this really blossomed and grew to something very special. And we grew from a team of 1 to a team of 9 eventually over 3 years later. Dov, a year after, joined the JLE. The department wasn't really big enough. Again, to talk about clashes, the department wasn't big enough for us to work together. We kind of were clashing. There wasn't enough space for the two of us to do the amount of work. But within the next year, we kind of tripled in size, and we were both like ready to run. And it was really a dream born then, because, you know, as you go through the years, 2004, 2005, 2006, going on from there, every year we had to expand the team, because the amount of just the amount of need, the amount of people wanting to join the programs, etc., and how it kind of grew. So I guess that was how the JLE side grew. And the Rabbis Unscripted part, which has kind of taken off so much now through this lockdown, through Corona, was actually Dov's idea. Dov, maybe you want to...
Yeah, no, I think we talk about Rabbis Unscripted. I think it is good. I mean, since you're talking about specifically work relationships in this cool down, I think it is quite a good thing just to focus on that. I mean, it's quite funny because you're used to interviewing. You're not used to interviewing interviewers. So we'll probably end up turning to interview you by the end. We'll just end up interviewing you because we're just so used to that. But it's interesting because, you know, when we did start working together, it was very clear that in so many ways, Benji and I are very similar. We have similar sort of love of people. We have a similar rapport that we can quickly create when we meet new people. But we also have very different styles as well. I think the way someone once described it was sort of this like kind of farmer and hunter, sort of kind of the hunter-farmer analogy. We're like, which works very well. I think that when you're looking at different styles, complementary styles in a team, you know, when you have two people that do exactly the same and exactly the same way, that's when you can get more clashes. The good thing is to kind of find that the complementary style, where you're not like worlds apart in terms of what you want and what you do. You're in the same ballpark, playing the same team, but you just have different skill sets that you can really complement each other with. I think that's what we found, Benji and I, that, you know, we had different styles of connecting. I wouldn't say they're like completely north and south. They weren't totally different, but they were complementary enough that it worked very, very well. And I think that's what we found always, especially, you know, for example, working on the trips that we did, you know, Benji brings an amazing sort of pizzazz. He has an amazing panache, like, which I just don't have that ability. I don't have the ability to see, you know, the big, you know, Wembley Arena, big style, you know, helicoptering into different. I don't have that. That's what the grassroots sort of earthy type. But at the same time, it switches round, you know, and because Benji pushes things through, he's like this netzach, which netzach is one of the it's one of the character traits, and he's just victory. Benji just pushes things through, like he won't take no for an answer. And because of that, we've done amazing things as he pushes it through. And I'm sort of at the side, but I bring that sort of mother hod, the sort of a different sort of style that kind of just complements that to make sure that we can carry it along. The train goes on together. So
no, Dov, I would say I agree with you 100%. And like for the people that are watching, I would maybe describe it in a certain way of like there's people. What I've learned from Dov a lot is that people can be so focused on the end goal of the journey that they fail to go on the journey themselves. And Dov is someone who embraces as he says, farming, the journey, not the end crop necessarily. It's just let's embrace being in the moment. A lot of what Dov does now also in terms of soul fitness, which is really like unbelievable mindfulness through Torah, meditations and stuff, which has gone really very much needed, especially during this time. It's really really exploded in terms of its success and popularity, is about, it really goes to Dov's style of being in the moment, nurturing that moment, being in the journey. And we've kind of complemented each other, because I've learned from him how to be in the journey, and he's kind of, in a way, learned from me to focus on, you've got to get to the bottom line, that journey has to go somewhere. I think that's very much the dynamic in a very spiritual way. You know, some people might call it male female, and it's not saying that every male or every female is in a certain way. We're talking about two men, but in terms of Kabbalistic energy, we say that a male energy is like unlimited potential. It's like just trying to do the next thing. Even biologically, that's how a baby is born. Whereas the female is like a certain amount, a finite amount, and then just making that into reality. And I'd say that if you came to a Friday night dinner that myself and Dov ran, although we both could very quickly go around the room and say hello to 150 people, and we would remember most of their names, and we could similarly do that. The part that Dov enjoyed the most was taking those few people that he really connected with and creating long-lasting friendships. And I love the fact that I knew 1,000 people at the end of the, at the end of 6 months or whatever, and everyone I would have a 2-minute connection with. So it's a bit like that, it's that dynamic that has been really at play, but it's been a journey to get there. And we've constantly evolved. And the beauty is as well, is that we're brutally honest. Dov has no ego. And I think that's been a big part of the success in terms of he knows who he is. He's got a great self-awareness, but he's got that ability to like, and therefore in a certain way, Dov's thinking unlike Benji. But
I think if someone has no ego, then I've like done pretty well, like to get to the level of having zero.
No, I think
I have no ego, but
your ego doesn't let you get in the way. That's what I mean. And we are brutally honest with each other as well. So even as we work together constantly and still daily, if there's something either of us are upset about, I mean, I was Dov's line manager for 4 or 5 years, and we were best friends at the same time. So you can imagine that dynamic of being best friends, but because we were able to be objective as we could together, we could be brutally honest together, whilst at the same time understanding it was never personal. If there was something that would need to be brought up, we understood that deep down there was a real relationship, a real love for each other, a real great, okay, so we have to bring up this issue. It's like when you have to bring something up with your spouse or your children or whatever. It doesn't mean there's a hatred. It's like, listen, this really upset me. Okay, fine. I take that on board and we move on. I think that's been a huge winning key of our relationship, is the ability to like bring things up, not brush things under the carpet, but find a way to work with each other in a ever evolving dynamic.
Amazing. Totally brilliant. Recognize each other's strengths, knowing how to speak to people, being able to work in a team but have different skills. That's all very important.
I think recognizing strength, by the way, that is definitely the point. Like at one point, Rabbi Benji, when he became CEO of JLE, and he moved sort of up the ladder, so to speak. And for a short while, I was trying to run the young professional department to a certain extent his way. And I think it's the most vital message of all. Like, you got to know your strength. You got to know your key abilities, and don't try and mimic and be somebody else. Always like kind of be true to yourself. And that's the best, I think, ingredient for success.
Amazing. Just quickly, I think we've got probably about 60 seconds or so left.
Rabbis Unscripted.
I was about to say, let's do that, and then I want to tip for people. Come on, Rabbis Unscripted. Let's just give me the numbers. It's sponsored by Virgin or something like that, right?
Yeah. So
that's mad.
Rabbis Unscripted actually started off on a Zoom call like this, and we said, hey, you know what? Let's broadcast this live. We put some virtual backgrounds. It quickly became a really, really popular show that not only we were, doing this show, that actually 300 organizations arranged a conference call with myself and Dov to understand how they could replicate this around the world. And try and take this to the next level. Literally, lockdown happened March 18th. I think the following Thursday we had already launched. So we're very, very quick to the button. Wow. One little secret was we'd already come up with logos and ideas because we were going to do podcasting under Rabbis Unscripted before Corona. So we were about to launch, and then we just switched it into video and had all the logos, had all the videos. We were able to go really, really quickly to market. Over the course of those 12 weeks, we had 1 million views through, and then again, same popularity, second lockdown. And we had people like Rachel Riley, Lord Austin. We've had people from all over the world, actually, but Lord and Lady Mendelssohn. It came to the stage where people have now, and even after last night, having Natan Sharansky in the Chilean Minor, they're contacting us to say, can we be on the show? This could be our big break. And that's how Virgin came along. It was almost that they were looking for the sponsorship and they wanted to get involved in the community with their London Tel Aviv route, which please God will come and come back soon. All desperate to get on those planes, go back, please God and help. And then Virgin says, listen, you've got this access community, you've got so many, literally hundreds of thousands of views over month. So you know what, this is our biggest access. So we had a lot of fun getting the adverts with the Virgin marketing team saying Rabbis Unscripted, sponsored by Virgin Atlantic.
It's very cool.
I know we've got like a few seconds left. One thing I think is just I think it's really important to note as well is that it's been an amazing adventure with myself and Benji, because they still call it the ants and deck of the Jewish world. So ITV are on the phone, we're still dealing with them. But one thing that I'm so proud of, I know Rabbi Benji as well, is yes, it's been great interviews. There's been a lot of fun involved as well. But the thing I take most pride of is that it's given a lot of inspiration. People often tell us how inspiring the speakers were, how inspiring the stories have been. It's given people a lot of hope. So that gives me the most, pride to know that we've really helped people out during this lockdown.
Amazing. 30 seconds on tips for people who are maybe struggling with relationships over COVID. What's the biggest relationship tip you think you can give them?
Dov, you have to go first on this one.
Maybe that was the biggest tip, allowing others to go first.
I think, listen, the key always is communication. That as much as possible, just to communicate, to speak it out. And if you need someone to help you know the words to choose, whether it's to therapists or various people in the community, but the more you hold something in, the more difficult it will be. So just use your words, communicate, speak it out. And oftentimes it can just, sometimes misunderstandings can be at the root of a lot of what's going on. So just use communication.
And on the back of what Dov said, and I would add to this, just in terms of the relationship that myself and Dov have, if we're going to draw down from that, is that in reality, a lot of the upset that we have in relationships is because our emotion overdrives the facts of what are happening on the ground. And what myself and Dov have been able to do in our relationship, and it's not easy with every relationship, is to be able to say, listen, okay, let's talk about what the facts are and try and remove ourselves as much on the personal side away from it. That means if you're talking about this really upset me, that's fine. If you say you are, like that's a whole different thing. So it's almost like saying, look, this is where we are at. This is, and this is not about you. It's not about me blaming. It's about saying how I'm feeling and then trying to figure out how can we work together. And I think the bedrock that we have an opportunity now during COVID to really look at is to make sure we can really put the bedrock of our relationship, trust and love. And then everything else, there is a way how to figure it out. If you've got that trust, you've got that love. And that's what I have with Dov. We have a trust, we have a love. Even if we know even if I bash into his car, he'll be like, okay, you've obviously made a mistake here. Let's just talk about this, right? It's that. Whereas if you don't trust someone, you're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing? So it's like trust and love are the root of it, and then build out from there. Try and remove the personal side and the emotional side, and at that point, I think there can be a lot of breakthroughs. Amazing.
Rabbi Dov, Rabbi Benji, thank you so much for the time. Keep on doing great things, and we look forward to the next edition of Rabbis Unscripted as well.
In 2 weeks' time on the 18th.
There we are. Okay. All right. Nice. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.